Today on Investigate TV, cold cases heat up thanks to new forensic technology.
It's a tool that's still pretty much in its infancy, yet it's helped resolve over nearly 600 cases.
Plus, another new tech helps prosecutors solve complicated abuse and assault cases, providing some peace to survivors.
When you show them the pictures, it's like you're validating them. And it's almost like you see a light go off in their head that it's real.
And a look at a tiny piece of plastic turning pistols into machine guns.
At 1,200 rounds a minute, that means the magazine is empty on a single pull of the trigger, and we don't know where those rounds are going to go.
Correct, in a matter of seconds.
Investigate TV starts right now. Hello and welcome to Investigate TV. I'm Lee Zurich. From missing persons to murder, emerging technology makes solving cases more attainable. That new tech called Forensic Investigative Genetic Genealogy has given names to previously unidentified remains and helped catch criminals across the country. Kristen Crowley shows us the impact this technology is having in solving yesterday's mysteries and today's crimes.
Across the country, hundreds of thousands of people are missing. For 40 years, Jack Langeneckert,
very handsome man, loved the good life, dressed impeccably,
was one of those people.
At the time, we thought that he probably ran away somewhere. We never did hear from him.
Russ Marty is Jack's nephew. Now in his 70s, he was much younger the last time he saw Jack, in 1982.
What do you remember from the day that Jack disappeared?
I remember my mom and my grandma going absolutely bonkers. I mean, they were really upset. They were more upset the second day when they found out that he had emptied out my grandmother's bank account.
Thousands of dollars in stocks and bonds gone. The only thing investigators ever found was Jack's car, abandoned at St. Louis Lambert Airport. He was reported missing, but as the years dragged on without a trace of the 50-year-old realtor, the family stopped talking about Jack.
The family was very mad at him.
Your uncle's sisters and his mother died thinking
yes,
he was still out there.
Thinking that he was missing.
Then, in 2023, Russ got a call from detectives. They wanted his DNA to test against some human remains.
Those decades-old unidentified human remains cases are what we specialize in.
In 2022, the Lincoln County, Missouri Sheriff's Office sent the unknown remains to Southeast Missouri State University anthropology professor Jennifer Bankston and her students, relying on them to extract viable DNA for testing.
My students' testing indicated that we had some really good candidate bone samples to send off to the lab that we love to work with, Othram in Texas.
Othram is a leader in what's known as Forensic Investigative Genetic Genealogy, or FIG. Bankston says Othram's technology can look at tens of thousands of markers on a genome, far beyond the capabilities of traditional DNA testing. Othram has used FIG to solve all of these cases, giving names to men and women, even children, across the country.
So here's how it works. A person uploads their DNA to a website like DNA Solves, GEDmatch, or Family Tree DNA for investigative purposes. Those companies then upload the unknown DNA and try to find the closest match. Typically, that's a third cousin, and genealogy experts say the average American has 190 third cousins. They have to whittle it down, and they do that by breaking them off into family trees, trying to find the closest living relative. The closer relationship you have, the more DNA you share. They're looking for a sibling or a parent, and if they think they found one, they reach out to them, asking them for their DNA to see if it's a match. What was your reaction when you got the DNA results back?
I knew it was him. I was totally convinced that that was my uncle that they found.
It turns out Jack never got on a plane. He never even left the state. In 1984, 2 years after his disappearance, his body was found in an old farm building in rural Missouri, just 1 hour from his home. His body was so badly decomposed, detectives couldn't determine who he was. His identity likely would have remained a mystery were it not for cutting-edge technology.
Your family felt closure in one respect of knowing now that Jack didn't just up and abandon his family.
Right, they felt better about that.
But there's more to this story.
Right.
The mystery of where Jack was finally solved, but there was another mystery, a much more sinister one. Jack was murdered, shot in the back of the head.
What would it have done to your grandmother to know that he was murdered?
She would have been very sad, but it would have given her some closure to the whole situation.
The question now is, who killed him? And the answer could once again lie with FIG.
The introduction of FIG has really rocked the industry and created not a new tool to replace traditional forensic DNA analysis, but a new tool to enhance traditional forensic DNA analysis.
Dr. Claire Glynn is a professor of forensic science at the University of New Haven, who also consults with law enforcement agencies across the U.S. and helps them utilize FIG. She says it's having success beyond identifying remains.
It's a tool that's still pretty much in its infancy, yet it's helped resolve over nearly 600 cases in just a 5-year period.
Cases like the murder of Sarah Yarbrough.
When we got there, that was when they told us that her body had been found.
The 16-year-old was found raped and murdered in 1991. Genetic genealogy helped lead to the arrest and first-degree murder conviction of her killer, Patrick Nicholas, in 2023. The hope is FIG will help solve many more cold and open cases.
We don't really ever think of FIG cases as being unsolvable.
Including the case of who murdered Jack Langeneckert.
They found me, so who knows? Maybe they'd be able to find him.
Researchers want to stress if you use Ancestry DNA or 23andMe, they cannot access those databases for FIG. You have to upload your DNA profile voluntarily to sites like GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA, which investigators can access, leading them to solve these mysteries. Scan the QR code on your screen now to watch full Investigate TV videos on our YouTube channel. While you're there, subscribe to stay up to date on the latest Investigate TV content. Coming up,
you could be sitting at your kitchen table, bam, from a gun that powerful.
automatic weapon fire on city streets because of a tiny device that converts pistols to instant machine guns, with concerns over people making them on 3D printers. That story after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. You or your family could be hit by stray gunfire from blocks away because of a tiny device police are finding on criminals across the nation. It's called a switch, and it instantly turns a semi-auto handgun into a machine gun. Reporter Brendan Keefe discovered people are printing these machine gun conversion parts at home. We have a warning for you. You're about to see and hear automatic weapon fire. But it's important for us to show you the danger of these illegal devices.
15 rounds, 30 rounds.
spraying from a regular handgun,
converted to fire like a machine gun,
with a single pull of the trigger, on the range and on the street. So many shell casings, officers are running out of evidence markers and are forced to use paper cups. This tiny switch instantly turns an ordinary pistol into a machine gun. This handgun without the switch, single fire. One press of the trigger, one bullet comes out of the gun. But because it has the switch, it will now fire full auto. Even experienced shooters have trouble controlling a full auto handgun. Here's the ATF agent who showed us how to use it. Knocked back by the sheer firepower, the bullet's way off target.
You could be sitting in your bedroom. You could be sitting at your kitchen table. Bam, from a gun that powerful.
Sandra Scott is a member of the Georgia General Assembly.
Representative Sandra Scott.
Just days before this year's legislative session, her cousin was killed by stray gunfire.
It was his son's birthday. He thought his dad was coming home to celebrate, but his dad ended up in the morgue.
Scott had already introduced a bill to add state prison time for possession of a gun switch, a full year before her cousin was killed.
A bullet don't have a name on it.
In other words, it's going to kill whoever it hits.
That's right.
This isn't a hypothetical. They're finding these on the street.
They've been on the street for a while.
Atlanta police are finding more and more gun switches on suspects.
and that's a federal crime, sir. Oh my goodness! A switch! Stop! Stop!
Sometimes after they go off.
Shot fire! Shot fire! Shot fire!
This officer was saved during a struggle for the gun only because the full-auto weapon jammed in the mud. In other cities, officers have not been so lucky. In Houston, a single gunman with a switch took on several officers. And another Houston police officer was killed by full-auto gunfire when serving a warrant.
Let's do this, Steve.
At 1,200 rounds a minute, that means the magazine is empty on a single pull of the trigger, and we don't know where those rounds are going to go.
Correct, in a matter of seconds.
The ATF showed us just how easy it is to download a gun switch from the internet and print it at home. How do you stop something when you can 3D print it at home?
That's the million-dollar question.
If they're doing that without an ATF license, this is a federal crime, right?
100%. It's a federal crime, and they could go to prison, federal prison for it.
Looking for more Investigate TV content online? Scan the QR code on your screen now or visit investigatetv.com. Up next, how prosecutors are using new technology to help solve complicated domestic violence cases. Welcome back to Investigate TV. Strangulation in abuse and assault cases can be difficult to prove, particularly for survivors who have a darker complexion. But new technology can now help provide critical evidence for prosecutors and provide justice for victims. Peyton Marshall in Cincinnati spoke with a domestic violence prosecutor about this potentially game-changing tech.
Domestic violence prosecutor Connor Wood says this will be a big help in prosecuting domestic violence cases.
We've had some difficulty just with standard picture taking, convincing juries, convincing judges that dark spots on an already dark complected person are actually an injury caused by this defendant.
The Cortex camera is able to pull out bruises or even scratches, revealing injuries to their true extent.
Why is this something that you're so passionate about? Because I hate hearing the phrase that a person wasn't, quote, injured enough to have been abused. That's a statement that I've heard now in two consecutive juries that I have done with persons of African American descent. What they could see on the surface did not match up with their idea of what an abuse victim looks like.
It's really hard to see, but she's got a little red mark here and a little red mark there. And it's very hard when you have this to show to the police or law enforcement and maybe you're seeking a temporary protection order.
Forensic examiner Christine Hazard demonstrates how the Cortex camera works. She says these red marks are from a belt.
And then we apply the contrast. You can get the side-by-side photo where you have a better definition of the red marks on the arm of the injury on the darker skinned person.
Wood reflects on some of her recent cases of domestic violence.
A person had been grabbed by their upper arm, and in the pictures you could see dark spots that matched up to where fingerprint bruises would have been. Jury was not convinced that they were fingerprint bruises. They believed that they were deviations in the person's natural skin tone. In the other instance, a person had been punched in the eye. This person had particularly dark complexion, and you could see some swelling and shadowing, but they said that that person was not, quote, injured enough to have been punched full force in the face by a grown man.
Wood says the jury didn't believe the survivors.
Capture.
Take a close look here and you can see the comparison of contrasted images showing abrasions, contusions, and evidence of strangulation.
We look for this very subtle bruising right behind the ear. They call that the sternocleidomastoid muscle. So when there's some kind of, perhaps they lift them this way, or if there's any pull on the neck where they're struggling, they can pull this muscle behind the ear.
Strangulation can be hard to prove, but this
very hard
technology helps that.
Yes, in a majority of cases where strangulation is the method of abuse, there are no visible physical injuries. If a person is strangled in a domestic violence relationship, they are 750 times more likely to be killed by their abuser.
But watch how Hazard uses the Coreflex Flow camera to reveal proof of strangulation.
And when we apply contrast, it gives us a much better definition of the bruising behind the ear.
These photos from the Cortex Flow camera reveal the subtle signs of strangulation, like broken blood vessels in the eyes and inside the mouth. Hazard says strangulation victims can't see this evidence on themselves, which is why the imaging is so powerful.
When you show them the pictures, it's like you're validating them, and it's almost like you see a light go off in their head that it's real.
Prosecutor Wood says she hopes to use this evidence to prosecute cases where survivors can't or won't participate in prosecution. You can stream this story and others from Investigate TV anytime directly on your television. Download our free app on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV devices today. Coming up, scammers sometimes use an illusion of a romantic or close relationship to manipulate and steal from their victims. How one woman has taken the fight back to them after the break. Welcome back to Investigate TV. Scammers have developed countless ways to rip you off in order to steal your money. One of the most invasive schemes involves something very personal, your love life. Gary Harper in Arizona spoke with a woman who turns the tables on these so-called romance scammers.
You may be involved in a romance scam right now and not even know it until it's too late. In fact, the most recent numbers are from 2022, and they indicate that victims lost around $1.3 billion to these scammers. But for the woman you're about to meet, she's not being duped at all. In fact, she's duping the scammers.
I think I'm on my 4th death threat now. Might be 5.
Becky Holmes has been duping romance scammers for a while. She spent countless hours chatting with them online and often posting her conversations on social media. It's a hobby that grew out of boredom at the start of the pandemic.
And as soon as I joined Twitter, I had so many people in my inbox, these really good-looking men saying, "Hello, dear. How are you? You look so pretty."
At first, Becky blocked the scammers, but then she decided to have some fun when the scammers started posing as celebrities to get her attention. One actually pretended to be Mick Jagger and told her, "You remember I had heart surgery some years ago. It's affecting me now. I need your help and support." Becky replied, "Oh dear, that's awful. Do you need a new heart? I have several here. They only need 12 hours to defrost." But the fake Mick Jagger told her he just really needed the money.
And not only him, I've had Brad Pitt, Liam Neeson, Jason Statham.
Becky tells On Your Side that she's turned her experiences into a book called Keanu Reeves is Not in Love with You.
Even though Keanu Reeves is famously not on any social media at all, he is the most impersonated.
The scammers pretending to be celebrities typically have two tactics. They claim their manager doesn't want them to see you, so you have to pay for a meet and greet. Or they want you to contribute to a bogus charity. But what about the scammers pretending to be your average Joe?
Most commonly is a soldier, a doctor, pilot, oil rig worker.
Becky says they pick exotic occupations and try to build a relationship online with a sad story about why they're so lonely.
Often somebody will tell you that they're widowed, that they have a child, the child is being cared for elsewhere because they're away with their dangerous job. Their husband or wife got cancer and died. Their husband or wife was in a car crash.
These scammers can spend weeks building an online relationship, pledging their love. But eventually, they're going to start asking for money. So how can you tell if the person you've met online is a scammer?
One of the first things that I always say is to do a reverse image search.
There are several online. A site called 10i is one of the best known. Upload a photo and it will tell you where the image came from on the internet.
If somebody messages you and, there's this sort of really handsome guy or really beautiful woman, these fraudsters, they use other people's images and that will tell you straight away whether you are speaking to the person who they are claiming to be.
And if you realize you've been scammed, don't be hard on yourself. These fraudsters are good at what they do.
At the end of the day, all of us, we're human beings. We want to find love. Even the hardest of us would like to find love at some point.
Keep in mind, the romance scam not only targets women, but also men as well. So if you're involved in an online relationship, you've never met the person, and then they ask for money, you're most likely getting yourself involved in a romance scam.
The FBI says if you suspect an online relationship is a scam, stop all contact immediately. And if you are the victim of a romance scam, file a complaint with the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center at ic3.gov. To keep up with our latest investigations, follow us on social media. We are at Investigate TV on Facebook, Instagram, and X. And that's it for us. Thanks for joining us here on Investigate TV. Hope to see you next week.